Right, hello there. Let's have a look at our virtual pet program and look at how we can put some code on there and get it all working so that the player can interact with this pet and it can almost seem like it's alive. So the first step is to decide on the different levels that you're going to track for your pet. So hopefully you've already done this. So for my pet, I have decided that I'm going to be tracking three different attributes, three different qualities of this pet. Those being thirst, so thirstiness, whether it's had a drink, hunger, and tiredness. Now, you might have other ones. You might have maybe fun levels or happiness levels or bladder levels, whether it needs a wee or something like that. So there are lots of different things that you could be tracking. In the game of The Sims, there are lots of different activities and different levels. So you just need to decide on three. I would pick three that you're going to find easy to draw. So I have drawn for my sprites. So my player character here, my pet, is called Drago. He's a dragon. And I have decided on thirst, hunger, and tiredness. So down the left-hand side here, in my costumes, I've done a couple of costumes of him looking normal. There's two normal costumes there. And if you look over here on the right-hand side, as I click between them, you'll see that there's not a lot of difference between them. He's just sort of wagging his tail a little bit. His eyebrows move a little bit. So it's just a little bit of animation going on there. And I've done that for each of my different states. I've done a couple of frames so that I can animate them. If he gets hungry, then it's going to go into these two frames. So I've drawn a picture of a thought bubble with some food in it. It's going to switch between these. That thought bubble just sort of rotates a little bit, and his stomach is rumbling. Down here, I've got two for if he's asleep. So it looks like he's snoring. His mouth opens, his back expands as though he's breathing in. So that's him when he's asleep. And then for thirsty, I've done a couple of frames of him looking thirsty like that. And his mouth sort of moves and he's got some little droplets of water. But then if he gets very thirsty, so using this thirsty level, when it reaches a certain level, he'll look like this. But then when it gets really bad, his face is going to change color and he's going to get that little exclamation mark above his head, which makes him look very thirsty indeed. So first of all, then, you hopefully have designed a load of costumes to represent the different looks of your character as he as those levels change. But we need some code for it all to work. So let's go to the code tab. And at the moment, it's completely blank. So we're going to have this start working as soon as we click on the flag. So as soon as the flag is clicked, I'll zoom in and make sure this is nice and clear for you. As soon as the flag is clicked, the first thing we're going to do with our levels is we're going to set them to their starting values. So I'm going to set all of my levels to 0. So thirstiness, 0, hunger, 0, tiredness, 0. So to do that, I've gone to variables and I've already made my variables. So all you do is you click on make a variable and then you type in the name of your variable. So I've done that for hunger, thirst, and tiredness. And we're going to set them all to 0 at the start. So set hunger to 0, set thirst to 0, set tiredness to 0. So when we click on the flag, that's like a reset. At that point, we're going to go into a loop. So our program is going to keep on running, and we'll say it's going to keep on running forever. So we're going to go into control, and we'll say, going to do this forever. Now, this loop is going to effectively increase those levels slowly over time. We don't want it to happen too quickly because then the game will be over really quick. It would get really hungry within a second. So we're going to put a delay in here. So I suggest 1 second. So it's almost like there's this ticking clock. Every second, a tick will occur and something's going to happen in my program. So the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to change all of these levels. So I'm going to change my hunger by 1. I'm going to go up in value by 1. And in fact, just to keep it simple, I'm going to do the same for all of them. I'm going to change hunger by 1, going to change thirst by 1. I'm going to change tiredness by 1. You don't have to have them all the same. So you could have some things increasing faster than others if you want. But just to keep it simple, I'm going to have them all as 1. So every second, those numbers are going to go up by 1. We can see that happening. If I just go to full screen and run this, there we go. We can see it's 0, and they're all going up. Ah, that's interesting. Why is only hunger going up? What have I done wrong? Let me just check. Hunger, thirst, tiredness. They're all going up by 1. Ah, can you see the mistake I've made? Can you see that this one says change hunger by 1, and these ones say set hunger 2? I've used the wrong blocks. Everyone makes mistakes. It's important to notice when you've made a mistake. Change thirst by 1, change tiredness by 1. Right, okay, keep an eye open for that mistake. Don't make the same mistake I did. There we go. 1, 2, right, they're all increasing. Excellent. But my guy here, my costume, my dragon guy isn't changing costume at all. So what we then need to do is look at those levels and decide on the costume that our pet is going to have. So I'm going to suggest that we start off by just having a normal costume. So we'll start this loop. We will switch costume to normal 1. You see that I've named all my costumes. If we go to costumes, I've named them all by clicking on them and then typing the name in there. Okay, so that's hungry 1, that's hungry 2. So they've all got names. So I'm going to switch costume to normal 1. Then I'm going to check the levels and change costumes accordingly. So I'm going to say if, let's do tiredness first. If my tiredness is greater than a certain number, let's say if it's greater than 50. If my tiredness is greater than 50, then I'm going to send a message which makes it run through the sleeping animation. So my sleeping animation has got 2 frames. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to broadcast a message that tells that sleeping animation to run. So I'm going to go to events, broadcast, and a message saying sleeping. If tiredness greater than 50, then broadcast sleeping. Okay, I'll come back to the rest of this in a second, but I'm going to move over to the side and I'm going to say, when I receive sleeping, what am I going to do? I'm going to change my costume. I'm going to switch my costume to sleepy 1. Then I'm going to wait for half a second, 0.5. And then I'm going to switch to sleepy 2. Sleepy 2. So if my character is tired, it's going to broadcast that message, which will change to one costume, wait for half a second, change to the other costume. Let's just test that and see if it works. So it's not going to do anything until tiredness reaches 50. Can I make that speed up a bit? I tell you what, just for testing purposes, I'm going to make it so that the program starts off with tiredness at 40. And that way I've only got to wait 10 seconds to get to 50, haven't I? So let's run it now. So it's at 40. Oh, why has it gone up so quick? Why did it go up so quick? Oh no, I've said change it by 40. Sorry, no, it's supposed to change by 1. It should start at 40. Start at 40, change by 1. Okay, that's better. Let's try that again now. Again, always test. Right, 42, 43, 44, 45. Ignore the apple, ignore that. 50. Now he's asleep. Okay, so there we are. He appears to be sleeping. The sleeping animation is working because the tiredness got over 50. Okay, let's put that back to 0 again. Start at 0, And then every tick we change it by 1, right? So there we are. That's the sleeping animation. What about the other ones? So what about if he's thirsty? If he's very thirsty, then I'm going to say that the thirst level is higher than, we'll say 80. Now, notice here I've done if else. This is quite important. The order in which you do these matters. If my tiredness is 50, then it's going to broadcast sleeping, and that means it won't check the other levels. So even if my pet is hungry and thirsty and tired, it's only going to do the one animation. So in this case, if it's tired, it's going to broadcast sleeping, even if it's also hungry and it's also thirsty. Okay, so I'm going to put in another if else. I'm going to use loads of if else's here, right? So if it's tiredness, do that. Otherwise, if thirst is greater than 80, then I'm going to broadcast a message that says very thirsty. New message, very thirsty. The thirsty. So I'll do the animation for that in a second. Otherwise, gonna get another else, if else. Just going to copy this. I'm going to duplicate that and pop it in here. If thirst is greater than 40, then that's going to be another broadcast. But it won't be very thirsty. It will just be just thirsty. Let's do the last one. If else. If the hunger is greater than, we'll say 50. Again, all of these numbers are up to you. You can do whatever you like with these. If hunger is greater than 50, then I'm going to broadcast hungry. New message, hungry. Okay. So now all we need to do is create these animations, right? So I've got sleepy. That switches between these two. Let's duplicate that whole thing. Make it a little bit smaller. When I receive very thirsty, I'm going to switch to my very thirsty costumes. Very thirsty 1. Very thirsty 2. And very thirsty 1. Duplicate again. When I receive just normal thirsty, I'm going to switch costume to thirsty 1, thirsty 2. And when I receive hungry, I'm going to switch to hungry 1, and then after half a second, hungry 2. Okay, let's give it a run. So I'm not quite sure which one's going to happen first, but let's see. Let's see what happens first. Okay, so I don't think anything's going to happen until these get to about 40. So I think it's probably thirstiness first. So once thirst reaches 40, it should look thirsty. Let's have a look. Nearly there. Come on. Come on, you can do it. Nearly there. Nearly there. There we go. He looks thirsty. Okay, what's the next one? I think it's when tiredness reaches 50. Should fall asleep. Right. Okay, it's fallen asleep. Now, interestingly now, he is still getting hungry and he is still getting thirsty, but because he's asleep, we can't see that. So if we were to somehow reduce the tiredness so that he woke up, then we would see that he was also hungry and also thirsty. But the order matters. Yep. So in here, it checks tiredness first. And if he's awake, then it will check thirstiness. And if he's not very thirsty, then it will check if he's normally thirsty. And if he's not normally thirsty, then it will check hunger. So it does it in order that you do all of these if-elses. And I know there's a lot of blocks that are all one inside another. So you're going to have to try and keep on top of that. If none of these things are true, so if he's not tired, if he's not thirsty, if he's not hungry, then we're into this section here. So what should it do? Well, it should show the other normal costume. So we'll say, wait for half a second and show the normal costume, the other normal costume. Because if you remember, I made two. I made two normal costumes. So switch to normal 2. So at the start, it switches to normal 1. Then after half a second, it will switch to normal 2. So we get this little bit of animation if he's normal. But as soon as one of those values gets high enough, he'll switch to the other animation. Right, okay. So I think that's enough for one section. So see if you can get that part going using your pet. And then we'll start thinking about these other things here, this apple and these drinks and ways of changing those levels in order to play the actual game. Okay, but there's plenty of stuff to be going on with here, getting these animations all working and getting all of these ifs together in the right order. Okay, there we go. Good luck with that. I'll see you again soon.